There's a specific kind of mourning, not the kind after a bad decision that was clearly a bad decision. Not the kind after something reckless or rash that you can point to and say, I knew that was wrong when I was doing it. This is the other kind. The mourning after something you can't explain. You lie there. And the clarity that comes with the absence of the previous night's emotion shows you something you weren't quite able to see while it was happening. You pushed him away. Or you started something from nothing. An argument, a withdrawal, a silence that became a wall. Where you just quietly stopped. Stopped showing up for the thing that was going well. Stopped being present in the relationship that was deepening. Stopped believing in the project right at the moment it was starting to work. And now, in the quiet of this morning, you can see it. Not everything, but enough. Enough to know that something in you moved against something good. Again. And the question that arrives, the one that has probably arrived before, maybe many times, is not dramatic. It's quieter than that. Why do I keep doing this? Not in anger, not as self-hatred, just an honest question, sitting in the room with you. Because you're not a self-destructive person, not in the obvious sense. You understand what you want. You can see the value of what was in front of you. You didn't want to damage it. And yet, if you know that morning, if that question has visited you more than once, then today is for you. Not to give you a diagnosis, not to add to the weight of self-contempt you may already be carrying, but to show you something about what is actually happening and why it makes sense in a way that, once understood, offers a genuine path forward.
Let's name the pattern clearly before we go further. Self-sabotage doesn't always look dramatic. It rarely announces itself. From the outside, and often from the inside, it looks like something else entirely. It looks like losing interest in a relationship, right when it starts to get genuinely close. Like finding flaws in a partner that somehow weren't visible during the early months when things were lighter and less real. It looks like the job opportunity that you applied for, interviewed well for, and then found a reason not to take. The reason was probably logical. It probably held up in conversation. But somewhere underneath it was something that didn't want to be in that position. Exposed, visible, accountable for delivering at a new level. It looks like the friendship that was becoming something rare and genuine, the kind where you could actually say honest things, and then gradually the calls get shorter, the responses slower, until the distance has grown wide enough that it would take real effort to close it again. Effort you don't make. It looks like the goal you almost reached, the dissertation, the business, the body, the thing you had almost finished, almost built, almost become, and then something happened. Or you did something. Or nothing happened at all and the progress just quietly stopped. Every man reading this will recognize at least one of these. Some will recognize all of them. And the thing that connects them, the thing that makes it more than bad luck or poor judgment, is the pattern. It keeps happening. With different people, in different contexts, at different stages of life, but the shape of it is the same. Things go well, and then something inside moves against them. The standard explanations don't quite fit. It's not fear of commitment in the simple sense. It's not laziness. It's not a lack of wanting. If anything, the wanting is very real, which is what makes the sabotage so confusing. You wanted the relationship. You wanted the opportunity. You wanted the progress. And something in you destroyed it anyway. To understand why, we need to go somewhere most people never look.
Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist who worked in the early 20th century, initially alongside Sigmund Freud, before developing his own distinct approach to the human psyche. One of his most important and most practically useful concepts is what he called the shadow. The shadow is not complicated, despite sometimes being described in mystical terms. At its core, it is simply this: the part of the personality that the conscious mind has refused to acknowledge. Every person, from childhood onward, makes decisions, not consciously, but automatically, about which aspects of themselves are acceptable and which are not. These decisions are shaped by the environment we grew up in, by what was rewarded and what was punished, by what the people around us could tolerate and what they couldn't, by experiences that taught us, before we had language for the lesson, something about who we are and what we deserve. The aspects of ourselves that didn't fit, the fears, the wounds, the beliefs about our own unworthiness, don't disappear. They can't be deleted.
But they can be pushed out of the light, down into the unconscious, where they continue to exist and operate without our awareness. That collection of rejected material is the shadow. Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That sentence is worth sitting with, because this is exactly what happens with self-sabotage. The shadow carries beliefs, formed early, never examined, never updated, and it acts on them, not through your deliberate choices, through the impulses that arrive before thought, the withdrawal, the provocation, the quiet stopping. From the outside, these look irrational. From the conscious mind's perspective, they are irrational. You don't understand why you did it. But from the shadow's perspective, there is a logic, a very consistent, very coherent logic. That logic is what we need to understand.
Here is what the shadow is operating from in the man who repeatedly destroys good things. A belief, formed long before it could be questioned, that sounds something like this: good things do not stay. Or, when people see who I really am, they will leave. Or, I do not deserve to have this. Not really. Not permanently.
These beliefs are not thoughts in the ordinary sense. You don't walk around consciously telling yourself you're unworthy. If someone asked you directly, you would probably say the opposite, that you want good things, that you deserve a decent life. But underneath that conscious layer, at the level where behavior is actually driven, these beliefs are operating, and they are not passive. The shadow is, in a sense, trying to protect you. This is the part that is hardest to grasp, but most important. Self-sabotage is not self-destruction in the way we usually use that word. It is a protection strategy, a strategy developed by a part of you that learned, in circumstances you may not even fully remember, that certain outcomes are dangerous. If you believe, at an unconscious level, that good things will eventually be taken away, then destroying them first is actually a way of maintaining control. You are not rejected. You leave. You are not abandoned. You withdraw first. The good thing doesn't end on someone else's terms. It ends on yours. If you believe, below awareness, that being truly known by someone leads to rejection, then as intimacy deepens, as someone starts to see more of who you really are, the shadow panics. Not rationally, but with the force of an old, unexamined conclusion, and it moves to create distance before the feared rejection can happen. The sabotage is the shadow saying, I will not let you be hurt in the way you were hurt before. Even when the person in front of you has given no indication they will hurt you. Even when the opportunity is genuine. even when the progress is real, the shadow doesn't update. It doesn't take in new evidence. It is operating from a fixed belief, formed in a specific set of circumstances. And it applies that belief to every situation that rhymes with the original wound. That is why the pattern repeats, not because you are broken, because the part of you that formed the belief has never been shown that the belief is wrong. Nobody arrives at adulthood with these beliefs by accident. They were learned in the specific conditions of a specific childhood with specific people in specific circumstances. And before you had the cognitive capacity to evaluate what was happening, before you could hold it up and ask, is this actually true? Or is this just true here with these people in this situation? The conclusion was already formed. Love is conditional. It arrives when you perform well enough and withdraws when you don't. Good things are temporary. The stability always ends. The warmth always cools. If people really knew you, really saw what was underneath the surface, they would leave. You are, at some level, too much, or not enough, or both.
These are not unusual beliefs. In various forms, they are extraordinarily common. Not because every childhood is catastrophic. Most aren't. But because the circumstances that produce these shadow beliefs are often subtle. A parent who was emotionally unavailable without being unkind. A household where vulnerability was met with discomfort rather than violence, but still not with genuine receptivity. An early experience of loss or rejection that got stored without being processed. The wound doesn't have to be large to leave a belief. And the belief, once formed, does not need to be reinforced. It simply operates, quietly, consistently, in every situation that activates it. The man sitting across from a woman he genuinely cares for, feeling a sudden and inexplicable urge to find something wrong with her. He is not being difficult. He is being managed by a 12-year-old version of himself who learned that closeness is dangerous. The man who walks away from the opportunity he had worked toward, he is not being self-destructive. He is being protected by a belief that says, what if you finally go all the way in and it's still not enough? These beliefs made sense in the context where they were formed. They are simply wrong in the context where they are now being applied. And the tragedy is that as long as they remain unconscious, as long as the man never turns and looks at what's actually driving him, they will continue to be applied to every new relationship, every new opportunity, every new thing worth having. Let me tell you about a kind of man I want you to hold in your mind. He is not dramatic. He does not see himself as troubled. From the outside, and largely from the inside, he functions well. He is capable, intelligent, and in many respects, genuinely impressive. But there is a pattern in his relationships that he has never been able to break. It always starts well, better than well. The early stage of a relationship is where he is most comfortable. There is intimacy without depth, connection without real exposure. He is good at this phase. He knows how to be present, engaged, interested. But somewhere around the point where it starts to become real, where the other person begins to see him more completely, where the relationship asks him to be known rather than simply interesting, something shifts. He starts to find things wrong. Small things at first. A habit that bothers him. A difference in values that hadn't seemed important before. A quality he's not sure he can live with long term. The reasons are always reasonable. That is the shadow's particular genius. It provides excellent cover stories. And then the relationship ends. Or he ends it. And there is grief sometimes, and relief. Always. And underneath both of those, the familiar quiet,
The sense that something that could have been real has not become real, and that he was involved in that outcome somehow. Though we can't quite trace the mechanism.
He has told himself various versions of the story over the years. That he hasn't met the right person, that he values his independence, that he knows what he wants and is simply not willing to compromise. There is enough truth in each of those stories that they hold. But the truth underneath them, the one he is never quite allowed into full consciousness, is simpler and harder. He is afraid, not of commitment in the abstract, of being fully seen, of allowing someone close enough to discover the version of him he has decided is unacceptable, and then having that confirmed by their departure.
So he confirms it himself first, through the withdrawal, the provocation, the very convincing reason to walk away. The shadow is protecting him from a wound that has not been allowed to heal by ensuring he never goes deep enough to risk it opening. The protection is destroying his life.
The Stoics were not psychologists in the modern sense,
But they understood something about the inner life that maps directly onto what we've been discussing. Marcus Aurelius, at the height of his power as Emperor of Rome, spent his evenings in a practice of self-examination. Not public confession, not performed humility, a private, rigorous, daily audit of his own assumptions, reactions, and motivations. He wrote to himself, "Confine yourself to the present." He wrote about watching his own impulses before acting on them, about noticing the movement of something inside him and asking whether that movement came from reason or from something older and less examined. Epictetus, who had every reason to be bitter about his circumstances, and wasn't, built his entire teaching around a single premise, that most human suffering comes not from external events, but from unexamined internal assumptions about those events. The event itself is neutral. What we believe about the event, what it means, what it says about us, what it will lead to, that is where the suffering is generated. Change the assumption, and the suffering changes. But you cannot change an assumption you have never examined. This is what know thyself, the inscription at Delphi, carried forward by Socrates, embedded in Stoic practice, actually means in practice. Not navel-gazing, not endless introspection that never touches action. A precise, honest willingness to look at what is actually driving you. Not the surface layer, not the rational justifications, the actual driving force. The man who examined himself, truly, rigorously, without flinching, was for the Stoics the freest man alive, because he was the only man whose behavior was actually his own. Everyone else was being run by something they hadn't looked at yet. The shadow is that something. And self-examination, the Stoic practice, the Jungian process, the simple act of turning around and looking is the only thing that changes its hold. Not quickly, not through a single insight, but gradually, through the accumulated practice of noticing what is moving in me right now, and where does it come from? That question, asked honestly and repeatedly, is how a man begins to know himself. And a man who knows himself, truly, not just in the parts he's comfortable with, cannot be run by what he refuses to see, because he has stopped refusing. This episode does not end with a system or a 5-step plan. The blueprint here is not that kind. What the shadow requires is not a technique. It requires a willingness. A willingness to turn around and look at what has been standing behind you. But there is something practical, something you can begin today. It is a question. One question asked at the right moment with genuine honesty. What part of me is afraid right now? And what does it believe? Here is how to use it. Notice the moment of movement. Self-sabotage has a feeling before it has an action. There is a moment, sometimes very brief, when something shifts. A sudden coldness in a warm conversation. A flash of contempt where there was care. An impulse to leave, to withdraw, to find fault, to stop. The movement happens before the behavior. Begin to catch the movement, not to suppress it, just to notice it. Something shifted just now. What was that? Ask the question without judgment. When you catch the movement, ask, what part of me is afraid right now? Not, why am I broken? Not, why do I keep doing this? Those questions are looking for confirmation of the shame story. This question is looking for information. What is afraid? Of what, specifically? Of being seen? Of being abandoned? Of discovering that even your best isn't enough? Of being loved and then losing it? Let the answer be honest. It may surprise you. The shadow's fears are often younger than expected. They belong to an earlier version of yourself, formed in circumstances that no longer apply. Ask what it believes, then go one level deeper. What does this fear believe? What is the specific conclusion it formed? Good things don't last for me. Or, if she really knew me, she would leave. Or, I will fail at this, and failing will prove what I've always suspected. Name the belief as precisely as you can. Write it down if it helps. Give it words. This act, the naming, the making conscious, is the beginning of change, not the completion of it. The shadow does not dissolve in one moment of insight, but it loses some of its invisibility. And what you can see, you can begin to question. Question the belief, not yourself. Once you have the belief in words, ask, is this actually true? Or was this true in a specific past situation, applied wrongly to this present one? The man who believes, good things don't last for me, did not arrive at that belief from nowhere. It came from something real at the time. But it is not a universal law. It is an old conclusion being applied to new circumstances, as if they were the same. They are not the same. The person in front of you is not the person who created the wound. The opportunity you're being offered is not the one that was taken away before. The relationship deepening in front of you is not the one that ended in rejection. The shadow hasn't noticed. It hasn't updated. It is still protecting you from a threat that may no longer exist. Your job, the patient, ongoing, genuinely difficult job, is to help it update, not through force, through awareness. One honest question, asked at the right moment, repeated over time, that is how the pattern breaks. Come back to where we started, the morning after, the quiet, the question sitting in the room. Why do I keep doing this? I want to offer you a different way of hearing that question now. Not as an accusation, not as evidence for the verdict that something is fundamentally wrong with you. As an invitation.
The pattern that has been running in your life, the one that moves against good things, that withdraws as intimacy deepens, that finds the convincing reason to walk away right when staying would require something real, that pattern is not your character. It is not who you are. It is what an unexamined part of you learned to do long ago in circumstances you probably didn't choose in order to protect something that felt fragile. That part of you is not the enemy. It is not a flaw to be corrected. It is a part of yourself that has been doing its best with old information, in the dark, without your participation or your knowledge. What it needs is not punishment. It needs your attention.
Jung wrote that the meeting of a person with their own shadow is among the most important and most difficult encounters of a human life. Not because the shadow is evil, but because it holds what we have refused to see. And what we refuse to see always finds a way to express itself in the world. The Stoics came to the same place from a different direction. Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, they all built their practice on the same foundation. Know yourself first. Examine the assumptions you are living from, because you cannot govern what you have not seen. The man who has looked at his shadow is not free of it, but he isn't ruled by it either. He sees the movement before it becomes the action. He asks the question before the damage is done. He begins, slowly and imperfectly, to make choices that belong to him, not to the fear, not to the old belief, not to the 12-year-old version of himself who drew a conclusion in the dark. That man is available to you, not after years of therapy, not after becoming someone different. Starting with one honest question, asked at the next moment when something moves against something good. What part of me is afraid right now? And what does it believe? That question is a light. Turn it on.
Here's the one thing worth carrying with you. You cannot outrun what you refuse to examine. The shadow does not grow quiet because you ignore it. It grows louder. It finds more creative ways to express itself. It borrows your voice and your reasons and your very convincing explanations. But the moment you turn toward it, the moment you ask, honestly, what is actually happening inside you, something changes. Not everything. Not immediately. The work of knowing yourself is not a single conversation with yourself at midnight. It is a practice, a direction, a commitment to no longer living from what you haven't looked at. The examined life is not a comfortable life, but it is a free one. And freedom, genuine, interior, self-determined freedom, is what every episode of this channel is ultimately pointing toward. Start with the question. Turn around and look. I'll see you in the next one.